Hello and welcome. Thank you for taking some time to learn about the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority and our 2021 Moving to Work Annual Plan. I'm Jeff Horwich. I'm the Director of Policy and Communications for MPHA, and I'm glad to take you through the next 10 or 15 minutes, I think, and talk about our expectations, our ambitions, and some of the challenges that we see for the calendar year ahead. As we're releasing this video, it is the beginning of August in 2020. And that's the time of year when our draft annual plan is available for the public to review and to comment on if you like. If you do want to comment, there's information about how to do that in the last slide of this deck. You can also learn about it at our website, mphaonline.org. Before we get into the main event here, just a quick note about the image that you see as the background of this opening slide. This is a ground level view, architect's drawing of the Elliott Twins, which is one of the most exciting projects that we have going on right now. The Elliott Twins is the largest public housing preservation and renovation in the history of Minneapolis, history of the state of Minnesota for that matter. Construction is well underway, and we expect will be completing in the middle of 2021. So you won't hear a lot more about this project on the slide deck today, but if you want to learn more about it, it is something very exciting that'll be playing out through the next year. And you can learn more at our website, mphaonline.org. You probably have some general idea about who we are if you've come to find this video, so I'll keep this description pretty brief. MPHA administers federally subsidized housing programs for low-income people in the city of Minneapolis. And principally, these are the public housing program and Section 8 housing choice vouchers. We also administer certain specialized voucher programs like one for veterans, for example, and other specialized housing subsidies. All told, we serve more than 11,000 households in the city and more than 26,000 people. MPHA is also, of course, our 300 or so employees, and you can see some of them smiling in the background there. A photo from before the days of masks. Nowadays, of course, we're wearing masks, being safe, but still smiling behind them, of course. The purpose of this plan, first and foremost, is to submit to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. We, like all housing authorities, have to submit an annual plan every year to HUD, talking about what we intend to do in the coming year. For MPHA, it's a little bit more of a specialized exercise because we have to talk about, in particular, how we intend to use what is called our Moving to Work, or MTW, authority. MTW is a designation that is held by 39 housing authorities around the country. We're the only one in Minnesota, as you can see from the map there. And being an MTW agency means two very important things. We can combine our different sources of funding, and we can waive certain housing regulations when we determine that doing those things is in the specific interest of our local community. So it allows us to develop specialized programs and policies to do things to serve the people in our programs in ways that other housing authorities cannot. So in this plan, we talk about how we intend to use our MTW authorities and powers in the coming year. The plan includes an introduction, which I hope very much that you'll take a bit of time to read, sections on the budget and our capital spending outlook for the coming year, data about the housing authority, and then a fairly lengthy section that talks about our various MTW activities that are ongoing or might be newly proposed in any given year. In this plan, we are proposing one new Moving to Work activity for 2021, and that is to be designated by HUD as a regional Moving to Work agency. There is much more about this in the plan itself, but I'll do my best to summarize it quickly here. What we want to do is to work together with the Metropolitan Council Housing and Redevelopment Agency to jointly form a regional voucher program. We think that by working together with Metro HRA and by using MPHA's MTW powers, we can expand housing opportunities for the families that both agencies serve. We're thinking about this in three ways primarily. The first you see there is portability. And you can think about portability as the two agencies working together to break down every bit of red tape that we can that gets in the way of a family moving from one jurisdiction to another. The second bullet is mobility. Mobility means not just technically being able to move, but actually being empowered to make a decision that's best for your family. If a family wants to move to a neighborhood that is closer to a job, closer to transit, closer to a school or to family, but maybe that neighborhood is more expensive, the housing search is more difficult there in terms of finding a place where you can use a Section 8 voucher. By working together with Metro HRA and looking across both of our regions combined, we think that we can empower families to have more choices available to them. There's another way of thinking about mobility, which is not making a geographic move, but economic mobility and serving families with new tools and programs that allow them to move forward in other ways. We look forward to working jointly with Metro HRA to pool vouchers and serve families together using MPHA's MTW flexibilities. The final bullet there is project-based vouchers. And put very simply, when you project-base a voucher as a housing authority, you are taking a voucher and not committing it to necessarily to a specific family, but to a unit of housing. And the reason that we do that, and Metro HRA does that as well now, is twofold. First, to incentivize the creation of new affordable housing. Where other people are building affordable housing, oftentimes a housing authority can come in and provide that subsidy support for those some specific units using project-based vouchers or PBVs and help make that affordable housing development a reality. The second very important point here is that project-based vouchers assure that those units in those developments are affordable to people who make the lowest incomes. So both housing authorities do this on our own. We think that by working together, by pooling our project-based vouchers in some cases, we can incentivize even more valuable development and housing opportunities for families in the Twin Cities. And there are no other proposed new MTW activities for 2021 in the plan. There are also a few updates to existing activities that we'd like to tell you about. The first of these is the move for all families with Section 8 Housing Choice vouchers to a triennial income recertification process. Now, this is already the way that it works for families on fixed incomes, but we're proposing that all families, and that means families with earned or employment income, would also only have to go in and recertify their income once every 3 years. The main reason for doing this is that even if your income goes up, your rent portion, your rent payment, will stay the same until you go in for that next recertification. That means families get to keep more of their earned income for longer. We think that's a good thing. We think the benefits for families will outweigh the additional expense to the housing authority in payments that we make to property owners. The second item is MPHA's ability to create a unified lease across our MPHA properties. We believe that no matter what form of federal rental subsidy is underneath a property that we own and manage, the terms of the lease should be consistent and transparent. The protections that public housing provides in particular should be carried forward, and they should be done so in a way that is clear and obvious to everybody. We think this ability to create a unified lease, and we can do that under MTW, will be of value to us and value to our community. We are discussing some new applications of our goal-oriented housing activity. These include a voluntary employment coaching and savings match program that will roll out as a pilot for a limited number of families from either our public housing or voucher programs. We also discuss a sponsor-based housing subsidy we're going to be providing combined with services for a partner who's providing homes for youth, and in particular older youth with children. And finally, there's some discussion of applications of a new activity from last year called Flexible Subsidy for Community Priorities. This activity gives MPHA the capacity under MTW to provide short-term rental subsidies in cases of evictions or homelessness crises. Undoubtedly, these will continue to occur in our community, and we anticipate using this activity in a limited way next year to help address some of those where we can. Now, these are activities that are not changing in any fundamental way, but I think it's always nice to talk about some of these ongoing activities that really demonstrate the power of moving to work here in Minneapolis. Stable homes, stable schools is a big one. This is a partnership that we have with the City of Minneapolis and the Minneapolis Public Schools to provide rental subsidies for the families of elementary children experiencing homelessness. The MPHA Townhomes, which you see in that picture there, is a public housing development that we built and opened up just a year or two ago that serves families directly from the Hennepin County homeless shelter system. Our lease-to-own program is a part of Moving to Work. Downtown View is a supportive housing facility for youth that we have placed vouchers in through MTW. Similarly, Great River Landing provides supportive housing for ex-offenders. We have a property owner incentive that is an encouragement for property owners to become involved with providing homes for families with housing choice vouchers. And then we have a number of resident-friendly income and asset policies that are supported by our moving to work status and by our plan. I'm going to talk briefly about some other sections of the plan, including the introduction, which I hope you will take some time to read. We discuss some of the near-term context and priorities that we know will still be affecting the work that we do in 2021. Chief among these certainly is the COVID-19 pandemic. We don't believe that we're going to be done dealing with that next year, and the health of our employees and our residents is going to continue to be a top priority for us. We're also going to be focused on how we adapt to continue to meet our mission and advance the work that we do for our community in a changed environment. We also discuss the Housing Authority's ongoing work, really a core part of our mission. It's right at the center of what we do, combating the legacy of structural racism, which people have been talking about this year more than ever, and rightly so. We talk about our work next year in the context of our long-term strategic priorities. These are housing preservation and creation, education, employment, and health, and operational excellence. The things that we do can almost all be fit into one of these three buckets, and this structure helps us think about the work that we do here in Minneapolis. In the introduction, we have a list of potential properties where we may apply for HUD preservation programs next year or in future years. We are focused, as always, on using whatever programs are available to us to stabilize the subsidy for our public housing and assure that those properties are preserved and continue to serve their mission for many years into the future. And then we talk a bit about the budget for next year. It's a pretty high-level estimate at this point, but we are looking at an approximately $137 million budget for the agency. And you can see on the right there that graphic that shows where the money goes. Most of it, or a large portion of it anyway, goes to housing assistance payments to landlords. That's the big blue bar that you see there. We discussed the concept of proration, and the short way to think about that is the extent to which we are underfunded by the federal government based upon the formulas that tell us what we should be getting and how we adapt to that. One way that we adapt to that is by using our moving to work authority to move funds within the agency, and we discuss in the budget section how we will do that. We also talk about the agency's reserves, which are critical and required in some cases for us to maintain so that we are ready if needed to weather a traumatic event such as a government shutdown that would threaten our funding. We have another section in the appendix that talks about our capital plans for the year. To give you a sense of our capital need, we anticipate that right now at MPHA, we have sort of a bare minimum essential need for major repairs and renovations in our buildings of around $151 million. Now, over 20 years, if we don't take some significant action, that will grow to around $500 million. The reason for that, as you see in the next bullet, is that we only anticipate getting about $15.8 million from the federal government to address that $151 million need. That is, of course, insufficient. It is why we do our very best to make smart decisions with our capital dollars and apply for HUD programs and have a long-term strategic plan to invest in all of our public housing capital. Our planned capital spending for next year is around $17 million. So we'll receive 15.8. We plan to spend 17. And that is because we are able to shift money into that program because we know that public housing capital needs are among our very top priorities. So what is on the menu for 2021? Well, it's mostly high priority essentials, things like elevators, fire suppression systems, major repairs to our scattered site homes, windows, roofs, facades, and a couple of major modernizations, one that is ongoing and will continue into next year, one new one that we are projecting, plus the Elliots, which I talked about at the very beginning, the Elliott twins. That is not in the capital plan this year because it was funded last year, but of course is a major construction project that we have going at the moment. So our last slide, here are some dates that you'll want to know. August 26th is the public hearing on this annual plan. Now, like so many things in this day and age, we are having to go online with that. We cannot hold it in person because of the COVID-19 pandemic. We'll be doing it likely via Zoom. There will be telephone call-in options, including the availability to listen and participate in Somali. The hearing details are going to be available at mphaonline.org/MTW. And remember, you can always comment multiple ways. You can comment on the plan via email or by mail. And here's some information about that. The deadline for those comments is August 31st. You can email them to mtw@mplspha.org, or you can mail them to the address that you see there. And on September 23rd, that will be a board meeting at which our board will give their final consideration and approval to the plan so that we can submit it to HUD by mid-October. There again is our website where you can go to learn more about the plan, download the plan, check out the schedule, learn the details about the public hearing, and click on the link to send a comment, mphaonline.org. Thank you for joining us for this presentation. Thank you for hanging with us until the end, and I wish you a good day.